Alright, so since we can't do it with our Arduino board, unless you happen to own one, we're going to use TinkerCad like I mentioned. And so TinkerCAD, you can do a bunch of different things in it, but once you log in, hopefully you've signed up with a class. I'm not entirely sure how that's going to work, but you can at least sign up for TinkerCAD. And what we're going to look at is the circuits, okay? And so if you click on the circuits there, it will load up. Now, I've got one that I was already messing with there, but I can just create a new circuit. And it does a reasonable job of emulating what we would do in class. Not perfect, but good for our purposes, okay, given the situation. So what I'm going to start off with there is what we had before, breadboard. Come on, breadboard, there we go. And so you can zoom out and zoom in. Fortunately, my mouse, I don't know, it really zooms in and out too fast. Let me just try to reduce that. Yeah, it's still, I don't know why. This is going to be a little tricky, but anyways, so it zooms in and out there. Now here's an LED, there's a resistor, and of course we need to find the Arduino as well. So there's the Arduino. So I'm going to pull that out as well. Good. And I always find, like I said, this a little bit big. I wish there was just a quick way of just getting the right size. So hopefully once I get the right size, we'll be good. Okay, so that's not too bad. I'm just trying to think about how I'm going to put this out. Okay. So there we go. We can see everything, I hope. Now, what I'm going to do is just light up one light to begin with. So I'm going to grab my LED, and I'm going to throw it on, just like we did on before. I'm going to throw it there. And now, one thing you'll notice, if I put my mouse over top, it says cathode, and then the anode. Now, if I click, too, it's going to create a wire. I just pressed escape there to get rid of that wire. So we'll get to that in a second. We want the resistor. So I'm going to put that resistor... And I'm going to connect it into, I'll do it into the negative there. So the cathode, oops, okay, let me just do this. So the cathode's there. So that's the cathode, that's the anode. The anode is the positive. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull all the negative. I'm going to put one wire into the ground here. Now, click, there we go. Okay, so that's grounded. And then what I'm going to do, just to show you can get the light going, I'm going to take that 5 volts. I'm going to pump it into here. Okay, there we go. And then I just come up over to here and start simulation, and it should just turn on if I've done everything. So that's it turning on there. Not as exciting as in real life, but there it is. Oh, stop. Okay. There. So, good. Now, of course, this hasn't got any programming yet. So what I want to do here is the programming. If you don't want that wire anymore, just click on it and press delete, and it will disappear. So what I'm going to do instead is go with 13 here. So what I'm going to do is drag from 13, okay, so this is a digital port 13, and I'm going to plug it in just where I put the other one in, okay? Now, oops, I got to click. Now, if I hit play, okay, or start simulation, it automatically starts to blink. Now, you might be saying, well, why is it blinking? Good question. And that's because there's actually code built in. So I'm going to open up the code. So there's this code editor, and we're going to look at it here. You can do it with the blocks. Personally, I am going to do it with the code, okay? So there's blocks and text, which maybe I'll put these up for both of us here, okay? So you can see it with the text, but I'm going to concentrate on this. So what this is basically 2 functions, okay? And if you remember back to, Unity and or Python, we had functions to sort of put some code in. So very much like Unity, I'll go back to Unity here, where we had the start and then we had the update. Exact same idea here. So setup only runs once. It runs right when sort of you reset the board or you plug it in or whatever the case is. Once it starts running, that is what's going on. Okay, that's what's going to run once, and then this is going to constantly run until you unplug the Arduino, basically. Okay, this loop goes on forever. So let's just take a look at what's going on here. What they're doing is you're setting up your pins. You're basically initializing these pins along here. And so it's pretty clear what it's doing is it's initializing pin 13. And then you've got a choice. You could either make that pin an input or an output. Okay, so in this particular case, we're trying to get a signal to go out to the light. The light's not giving us any information. We're controlling the light, therefore it's an output. Okay, so if you ever want to run another light, and I'll show you another one in a second here, then you can obviously change that to an output, right? Put another one in here, pin mode 12, and then do that. Now, to get it to blink, that's what's happening here in the loop. So we've got 4 lines of code, and basically it's just, but they're just two separate things going on here. One is called a digital write. So the idea here is you're writing to the digital pins, okay, and you're giving it a command. So think about writing, you're writing sort of a command for it. And so what it's saying is, well, what pin are you going to operate on? So pin 13, okay? And then what are you doing to it? Well, we're setting it to high. So high would be basically, you can think of on, high voltage, okay? So high is sort of your way of thinking on. Now to actually see it blink, we're gonna have to have a delay, okay? And I'll show you what happens if we don't have a delay in a second here. So a delay of 1,000. And so 1,000 milliseconds, which, right, there's 1,000 milliseconds in 1 second, so that means a second. So it's gonna blink, well, it's gonna wait a second before it does anything else. And then what it's gonna do is the same thing again, but now set that pin to low. And like I said before, high is like high voltage, so the 5 volts, low is 0 volts, okay? So that basically it turns it off. Then it waits for another second. And then this loop repeats over and over and over again. Now, you might say, well, what happens if I didn't put the delay in, right? Well, if you got rid of the delay, and I'll just put, sorry, I didn't realize I couldn't have both of those things out, both the blocks and the text, so I just switched it right to text, okay, instead of blocks and text. And so now I can actually go in and edit this. So if I got rid of this delay, okay, now I can do that properly, and got rid of this delay, what you notice is that it would just blink on and off so fast, it will just look like it's on. So if I hit start here, okay, it just looks like it's on, okay? So there's no delay. So if I stop that, and I put that back in, now you'll get that blink on, and then off with a second delay in between, okay? So, and it's very accurate. You can, I mean, obviously to the 1,000th of a second here. Now, one thing that's interesting is that, you know, you can get it up to a pretty fast blink, but at a certain point, right, your eye is going to not notice the blink. So let's just see. It could be different in real life. Yeah, here you can definitely see it in, this is the problem with the simulation. You could definitely still see it blinking in real life at 50. Here you can't. So it doesn't quite work as nice as, oops, stop the simulation, as the real Arduino does. But, yeah. Right, we have to do what we have to do here. So if I start the simulation on this one, okay, now you can see it blinking. It's kind of more almost flickering, okay. It seems to do it more when I put my mouse over top of it, okay. So there's a certain limitation on this, okay. So yeah, we just have to work with what we've got. Let's just say we want to do one more light. And then basically that's what I'll get you to do this week, is just sort of put these in and so on. So let's wire it up first. So can I turn the code off? Okay, so just turn the code off like that. I'm going to put another light in. So I'm going to set it up the same way. So there, I'm going to put a resistor in. And I am going to wire it up. So this time to the positive, right? So there goes to 12. The ground, I'll just put it in the same spot I did before. The ground is already grounded, okay? You don't have to rewire the ground, because remember this whole line, right? When I light this up, that's why this all lights up with green, is because these are all connected. So all the grounds are going to go back into the ground here. So you don't have to rewire the ground, okay? Just one extra wire in for that. And if I go back into the code, okay, now if I hit play, just to show you first, nothing's happening, okay? I'm just going to set this back to 1,000 here. So what I would have to do, okay, is re-output this one. So pin mode, and I could copy it or type it in. So now 12, and we're going to set that to output as well. Okay. And then what I'll do here, and I'm just going to type it out just to get the practice, digital write. Now I'm going to do 12. And we'll set this to high. And then delay 1000, digital right, 12, and we'll turn it off. Whoops, make sure you capitalize those. So the syntax is a little bit different, right? The way you're writing it. Oops, and that delay again, 1000. So what this will do, right? So if you think about it before we run it, this will run because it does it sequential. So 13 will turn on, 13 will turn off, then 12 will turn on, and then 12 will turn off, and then it will repeat it. So there's 13, there's 12. Whoops, all right. Sorry, it's like a Twilight Zone or something, but just on and off. And you can imagine if you just sort of kept running it. And just to show you, now, IRL, in real life, if you did this, if you got rid of that pin mode, 12 would still light up, but very, very faint. I'll just see what happens in the simulator. Oh yeah, actually it does look a little bit fainter there. Yeah, I think it is a bit fainter. So you should make sure that you do the pin mode, okay, because that will give you full brightness on it. But yeah. So what I'd like you to do, okay, you've pretty well got this idea here. I'd like you to put a few more lights in. In fact, I'm going to pause it for a second here. All right, so what I've done here, obviously, is placed a bunch of LEDs and resistors in the same pattern that we did before. Okay, there's nothing different here. I just simply moved that one that I had a little bit closer. And then notice how each of them are controlled by a separate pin. So I'm using pins 5 through 13 plus the ground. And again, remember, only one ground because all the electricity can run through that single ground. You just need to control each one separately. And so what I've done here, not changing the code too much, okay? So I've just gone into the code. I'm not going to show you because I've already showed you how to, light up one and light up another one and sort of get them to go one after the other. What I've got here is what I like to call the Night Rider. So this is just, it doesn't play as well as it would on the real Arduino, but you can see it's just a light that sort of goes back and then forth. I sped up the delay, okay, so the delay is a bit shorter there, and then you can just go up and down, okay? So again, not using anything different than I did before with the code. This is sort of creating this, light that just turns on and off as it works its way up and down. So what I would like you to try this week, okay, is to get something like this to work. Okay, now I think because you're in my class, I can view it. So when you're done, just let me know, just maybe write a little Word document that says, hey, Mr. Fleming, I'm done. And hopefully I can check it. If not, I'll just get you guys to take a screenshot or something. We'll figure that out. But yeah, try to get this pattern so that it's going up and down, okay, and back and forth. Now remember, it's going to loop by itself to a certain extent, okay? At a certain point, it would loop back, right? It's just going to run on this forever. So the lines of code aren't terrible. I will show you a quicker way to do it later on. If you think about doing with loops, it's a lot easier, a separate loop, a for loop, but we'll talk about that after. Yeah, so try to get this kind of pattern done. Put those lights in, wire it up, and then try to play with the code there to get this to work. All right, so good luck with that, and let me know if you need any help, and I can do another little video later on or whatever. Oh, just in terms of saving it, I think it does. Oh, actually, now that I look at this here, yeah. So, I think it will save it automatically. I guess later on, if we need to, we can share it. Oh, okay. It can do a snapshot of your design. Okay, so we can do it that way. People may link. Oh, okay, and there's a link there too. Okay, so if we'll see if I can view it. If not, I will get you to do this sort of thing here. But for the moment, just a little email to say that you're done, and then that should be okay. Otherwise, we'll figure this out how we should hand it in later on. Okay, so try to get that pattern, and we'll see how it works here. Good luck.